So this video is in response to a comment that I received on a video that I posted recently called How to Change the World. What is one quote concept that you want to change in the world? Well, a couple different things to that. First is, short answer I guess is what I would call psychophobia, but the massive caveat with that is I wouldn't really desire to change it in the world. What I mean when I say that is basically the idea and the concept makes sense to me. It resonates, it feels good, and thus far exploring it and applying it in my own life has been pretty cool, and I've liked it, and it's been productive. Hasn't necessarily been comfortable. It's been actually rather painful and intense and a whole spectrum of things, and that's just part of being human. But so that's what I mean. I don't really feel inclined to get into the mindset of looking at the world and saying, oh, everything would be better if people did this. But for the sake of answering the question and perhaps participating in dialogue, that is my answer. Psychophobia. What do I mean by that? Well, this is a term coined by R.D. Laing, which he was a really famous psychologist, a psychiatrist, or maybe both, I don't remember. But basically, if you haven't read any of his books, he has a book called The Divided Self, really good. So basically, a lot of what I say kind of comes from that, but he's really just echoing things that mystics and Eastern philosophers and sages from all over the world have been saying for a long time. And basically, this term of psychophobia means really the fear of our own psyche, the fear of our own, thoughts, our own whatever is happening inside. And all of this chaos and stuff that we're seeing in the world currently probably has a lot to do with the inner turmoil in people's psyche and just sending it outwards rather than keeping it in. And there's a quote by Carl Jung where he basically said, in the past, people used to be scared by, things that would go in the dark, and ghouls and goblins and all these different quote-unquote mythical creatures. Yet now people are scared of, terrorists and viruses and plagues and economic meltdown. So they sort of just took one thing and replaced it with the other, not really addressing the underlying thing. So when a person is psychophobic, they're immediately opening a whole can of self-division and self-hatred. And if a person is carrying around all these three things, what are they going to create in the world? Maybe not very much, or just destruction or chaos. Not even chaos, because that can be a very positive thing, but just a lot of discord and disharmony, because that's what they have inside of them. And this comes out of the way we're conditioned, and this is really the core of how everyone kind of views the world, in that it's a pyramid, it's a hierarchy, or it's a monarchy, which is the same thing. Whether it's religion, monarchy, hierarchy, spirituality, most of the time still monarchy or a hierarchy of a different order, and all sharing the same fundamental belief that, well, in and of myself, I'm kind of not good. But they have the answers. They have the solutions. I don't need to question myself. I don't need to think about this. These people have already got it figured out. They've already mapped it out. I just gotta join. I gotta show up. I gotta go on Sunday. I gotta do my chanting. If I just do enough mantras, or I can just get flexible enough, or do headstand long enough, or whatever, then this darkness, or this sense of what's wrong with me and what's wrong with the world, it'll just go away. It'll just disappear, and then I'll just be blissed out, and I'll be enlightened, and And what's funny with that is, people will stay up and they'll lose sleep at night mulling over their own neuroses. Oh, well, what are they going to think of me? Well, what if I fail? Well, I don't know if she really likes me or not. But the fact of all of these tragedies and all of this crazy messed up things that are happening all around us all the time, people are just like, whatever, change the channel. I don't like it, change the channel. I don't like it, let's go shopping. Let's just feel it. I'm just feeling shopping today. Who cares about actually reality? So then what ends up happening is people have a lifestyle, not an actual life, in becoming outer directed rather than really inner directed. Now obviously we live in a world, we live in a culture where we participate. You know, I like things, I like nice things, and I like to have money, I like to have material possessions, I like to have a good life because it's what I like and it's comfortable. But I do it for those reasons, not because someone tells me I need to, or because I hope if I do it people will love me, or it's based on some insecurity or controlling or programming. Because the thing is when you take part of yourself and say, oh, it's bad, no, fuck that, gotta get rid of that stuff, I just can't even look at it, hence psychophobia. Oh, it's bad, it's evil, this is the only good part, so it's the only good part I'm going to look at. When you're operating under that kind of belief system, it's really easy to get sucked into all the propaganda and the mind control and just all of the crap that's sold in our world. Now, we could also say, oh, well, that's just bad, we have to get rid of it, it's evil, capitalism's evil, money's evil, all of these ridiculous ideas. But we fail to consider, well, were we sold a lie, or did we buy that? Which that's a concept that I got from a philosopher, educator, teacher, whatever, called Michael Tessarian. And that's a really, really important idea that I don't think very many people consider or ever really ask. Because the whole theme underneath this whole thing is self-responsibility. And it's hard to really be that responsible when you don't even want to look at yourself. You believe that this part of yourself is good and the rest, don't need that. That's just an open door. So when you see manipulators, you see psychic vampires, you see psychopathic leaders and politicians running the world, you see all this crazy shit happening, well, maybe that's just like a fungus. Maybe that's mold. You know, if you buy fruit and you leave it on your table long enough, it's gonna rot. So what you could do is like be pissed that, oh, it's rotting. And actually a lot of people do that, which is why you buy an apple and it's coated in this much wax and it's so freaking hybridized that it'll never decay. And that's the world we live in. You know, people buy the whole like immortal cheeseburger thing, where people buy, you know, a Big Mac and then it's 30 years later still there. Where do you think that idea came from? Where do you think the attraction in the deep pull to that kind of mindset came from? It's an important question to ask. So yeah, there's that approach. Or we could say, maybe I just should clean up this mess. You know, oh shit, there's weeds in my garden? Hate gardens. Stupid plants. Let's go just put some Roundup on it, because that's going to work. And what happens? Dandelion is like, that's what I think of your Roundup. That's what I think of pulling weeds. Oh, this damn dandelion keeps coming up. Well, could be something to that, you know? Could be a lesson there to be had. And maybe our approach is incorrect. I don't know. It's really just based on personal observation. So without going, so we could unpack this idea for a really long time, to be quite honest, because it shows up in relationships, shows up in health, shows up in economics and philosophy and psychology, and it's really the missing piece. Because everyone's quick to blame. You know, we could say, oh, Monsanto, the sons of bitches, you know, just GMO, monocropping, everything. But what if we're doing that to ourself? Because what is monocropping? Oh, this is the only good plant, and we have to do everything to only grow this one good plant. Oh, sound familiar? Oh, this is the only good emotion. This is the only good self that I can present to the world, so that's what I only have to focus on. they're really philosophically and psychologically not necessarily different approaches. So yeah, we can blame these people, but we can also understand that, are we doing the same thing? You know, we're conditioned in the same world, we're brought up in the same matrix. Would we, in their position, really do anything differently? I don't know. And at the same time, we think that, oh, you know, if we would all just come together, if we would just get a group, we would just get a collective, then, you know, then there would be empowerment. But actually, it's the opposite, because the less individual you are, the less of a self you have, the easier it is to be a psycho, to be a sociopath, meaning to be some corporate entity that just destroys the planet, really screws people over, and really just operates in a completely fairly destructive way, out for just strictly a really narrow sense of good. And people might say that's selfish, but the thing is, if you have a healthy sense of self, you probably develop what's called a conscience. Meaning, if you do bad or you harm someone else, you realize you feel negative about that. You realize that to harm another is to harm yourself. You realize two important maxioms: know thyself. It's number one, and number two, to harm another is to harm yourself. And then you could also understand, well, what is myself? You know, I'm selfish. I'm self-centered. What the fuck does that even mean? But no one ever asked that question, because those are terrible words and we can't do it. But if we did ask that question, we would eventually realize that pretty much everything we think is ourself is actually other. And everything that we think is separate is actually interconnected. Meaning, oh, oil spill, fuck it. Monocropping, who cares? Destroying the planet, whatever. But where do we get water? Where do we get food? Where do we get life? What do we completely depend on for our existence? Probably the earth. So in pretty much every single way possible, the earth and ourself are, we don't want to say one and the same thing, because that's a little too much of a jump, but highly, highly interconnected. So if we actually spend, what do we just do, 2 minutes? What if you spend an hour? What if you spend weeks, months exploring, what is myself, you know? In a selfish activity, what is a selfish activity? Some people would say, oh, following your passion or following your bliss or being really creative or dedicated to something, that's really selfish. But whatever that is, inevitably is dependent upon tons of other people, and it's something that you'll probably want to share with other people. So that whole idea is really completely misunderstood, but that door is open when we don't actually have a self, and we're actually divided in ourselves. We actually hate ourselves to a large degree. And that's a strong word and something to think about. So what happens is, you know, if you're just jump into a group or dissolve yourself in a collective, there's no real sense of self or accountability. And especially if you're, you know, you're doing terrible deeds, what does everyone say? I'm just doing my job. You know, I get paid to do this, so I'm doing it. And if I don't do it, I'm not going to get paid. I'm not going to be able to take care of my family. So you have to really go schizoid a little bit and say, oh, well, nope. Push that away. Can't deal with that. And if you do any research on history, and when people were asked, you know, even after terrible wars, soldiers do terrible things, who normally they wouldn't do that. And what is their justification? Usually, I was just doing my job, just following orders, doing what I was told to do. I thought I was doing it for a good reason. So, what is that doing? It's not my fault. It's their fault. Then you go ask the other person, well, what were you doing? I'm just doing my job, just following orders. Oh, okay. Not your fault. Okay, well, whose fault is it? Oh, they told me to do it. Okay. And then you followed up the line, and everyone's just saying, oh, no. Just, you know, just doing my job, or I'm just a member of the corporation, or I'm just a board member, or we had to meet our deadline, we had to meet our quota. No one wants to take responsibility, because why? Well, we're all so collective. We're all just this group. But if you think about to use a corporation, for example, what does the prefix corp imply? Does it sound familiar? Corpse? Corporeal? It implies basically dead, or something which is very, what's the word, temporal? So, and if you just watch read the book The Corporation, read the book Dope Inc., watch the documentary The Corporation. This stuff isn't weird, it isn't conspiracy, it's actually right there in the open. But no one cares to consider it or look at it because we're too worried about, well, do they really like me? I mean, well, I don't know, should I go to Burger King or McDonald's? Well, got that coupon in the mail from McDonald's, so I guess I should go there. That'll be different. It's really not necessarily representing any degree of change. So, a lot has been said and could be said on that. So, hopefully that answers the question and gets some ideas out there, and keeping in mind that the way we commonly understand these things, selfish, self-centered, collective, groups, groupthinks, cults, and all these things, and even psychophobia and self-reflection, they're not the way of understanding these things, the way we've been conditioned to think about them, is not really that accurate. So these are things that we can and will unpack and really unfold over more videos, but just this one wanted to answer that question because it's a good one. So if you post good questions and post, thoughtful comments, positive or negative, as long as it's thoughtful and respectful and, eloquent, then I shall respond to them, because I'm going to be doing like weekly, videos like this where I answer questions based on whatever you want to know about. So hopefully that has been helpful and sparked some questions rather than answers and some thoughts rather than beliefs. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you should subscribe to my channel. You should like the video. You should post a comment, because I will respond and I'll just do more videos and do more stuff. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.